Hello everyone and welcome back. So continuing on work on the BuildAssetBundle editor extension. In this video, Lee is going to kick off the implementation by getting the class going and then getting the export asset bundle method in place and getting that method implemented. Of course, all functionality is not going to be there because as Lee begins the implementation of it, of course, we're going to have to do some method calls to methods that don't exist yet. So we'll just get everything kind of skeletoned in as we get this particular class going. Lee?
Right. No, I figured that'd be a lot easier than trying to write this all in one go. It'd be a fairly long video. So
Yeah.
and it'll also give us some time to show off some of the other functionality of editor extensions and what we can do. Some of the stuff that we haven't done when we're going over the train processor.
Right.
So, but just like the train processor, since it is an editor extension, for the Unity editor to recognize it and to be able to utilize it, it has to live in a folder called editor. So this is where we're going to put it. So let me go ahead and jump over to Visual Studio. Go ahead into our editor folder, and we can add a new item. And this will be a class, and we will call this class Build Asset Bundle. Wow, it's almost like I've forgotten how to type over the last week.
That happens to the best of us.
It's like, oh, wow, I'm typing slowly. But it was such a fun week, too.
Yes, it was. It was absolutely amazing.
All right, so let's go ahead and get some initial cleaning. I'm not going to use system. I'm not going to use link, and I'm not going to use text. This is an editor extension, and just like mono behaviors, they cannot live inside of a namespace. So I will get rid of the namespace. All right, so this is our class. Now, all of the functionality is going to, for the most part, be broken off into these smaller methods that will each perform a very specific job. There will, however, be a single method that is going to control the flow and the operation of how all these different methods work to build our asset bundles. The reason that I went with this approach is I didn't want to have redundant code for all the different possibilities that our asset bundles may be built. Meaning, if we're doing the monolithic build or individual asset bundles, if we're using recursion or if we're not using recursion, what do we do if we're allowed to overwrite, et cetera, et cetera. So what I've got is a method that is going to be a public static method that is going to return void, and I'm calling this export asset bundle. So this is our main method. This is the method that is going to be called when we click on that menu item that we're going to put in our editor. So how do we make that menu item? The way we do it is by defining, and for the life of me, I can't think of what this is called. It is, it's on the tip of my tongue. There you go. I knew it began with an A. I just couldn't think of the name. We're defining an attribute. It is an attribute called menu item. Hey, I'm still on that river. Thank you very much. All right, so our attribute will be of menu item, and I'm going to give it the name of my extensions. Extensions. Got to sound it out. There we go. Okay, so my extension is going to be the name of the folder in the menu list. And then under that, I want a menu item called Build Asset Bundle.
Now, when you say the name of the folder.
Well, the category, sorry, like this.
Oh, okay, okay.
So, and I can build this now. And if I were to jump over into Unity, and if I hit Control R, I've got a category called My Extensions. If I hit that, we can see I've got a menu item called Build Asset Bundle.
Perfect.
And if I click on it, nothing happens. Well, yeah, lots of stuff happened, but that's all behind the scenes and you can't see any of it. So go ahead and hit ignore for now. Let's put some functionality in here so we can see it actually do something. So let me think about how I want to approach this. We're going to need a few fields just to keep track of stuff. And I'm going to set those up, and then we'll come back and add something that we can literally see when we're doing, when we click on the Build Asset Bundle. The 3 fields that I want to add right now are going to be the flags that are going to determine what state that, or what, I don't want to use the word method, but basically it's going to control how our export asset bundle is going to function, whether or not it's going to build that single file, individual files, if it's using recursion, and whether or not it's going to overwrite if it finds an existing file.
Okay.
So these will be 3 static booleans that will be called use recursion, the second one will be build monolithic, and the third one will be overwrite enabled. Once the overwrite enable is going to work slightly, kind of like an overall toggle. So when this is set to true, it will then from that point forward overwrite every single file that it determines already exist. If you were to just hit go ahead and overwrite, it would overwrite one file, and then it would prompt you on the very next file. But the moment you hit overwrite all bets are off. You're overwriting everything. All right, so those are going to be our 3 flags. Let's get something working. So we're going to use recursion. I'm going to call on some editor utility function. So I'm going to use editor utility, specifically the display dialog method. So the first part is our title. It's going to be use recursion, question mark. Then, just to keep it kind of looking neat, do you want to include assets from subfolders? Question mark. And then after that, I get to assign the OK string and the cancel string if I choose, or I can just use one. So we'll say yes or no. So that will ask our first prompt. I'm going to duplicate this and change this up to be build monolithic. And then we'll change this to be build a monolithic asset bundle.
Asset?
No, this is an ass bundle. There we go.
Okay.
An asset bundle. Got it.
Okay.
All right. Now, do you want all assets to be included in a single asset bundle? Yes or no? So go ahead and hit F6. Go up here, hit Control R just to be safe. My extensions, hit Build Asset Bundle. Use recursion. Do you want to include assets from subfolders? Yes, I do. Build a monolithic asset bundle. Do you want all assets to be included in a single asset bundle? No, I do not. Doesn't do anything, but it does prove that our editor extension is working. So that's the first part of it. Now, the next part, well, even before I get into that, let's round this off a little bit more. Let's go ahead and set up our override enable. Override enable, because it's a static, I want to set this to false every single time this method gets dealt with. So that'll take care of the initial cleanup. Now, where I want to go next is we're going to have to keep track of a couple of things. One is going to be what is currently selected. So our build asset bundle needs to know what is or what has been selected inside of our project view, because we need to be able to get the path that this exists at on our local hard drive. Once we've got that initial part, we need to determine whether or not this is a folder or if this is a file or an asset. So if this happens to be, let's say, one of these materials. So if I go to common resources, if this is a material, we're going to handle this differently than if it was a folder. And then we're going to handle it differently whether or not we're using recursion or not, or whether or not we're going to be building a monolithic file or not. So each of these states have to be determined, and then we have to take the appropriate actions. So let's start off by seeing what we can do to figure out what has been selected inside of our project panel. To do this, let's jump back over to our exporter, and we're going to need another field. So we'll do a private static. This will be a string, and this will be Unity path. This is going to be the path that Unity understands that asset to exist at. To initialize it, we'll say Unity path equals our asset database. Now, I'm not going to get into a lot of detail about what each of these are. These are all part of the Unity editor library, or library. So as opposed to the Unity engine library that we've been working, or the Unity editor namespace, depends on how you want to call it. So the Unity editor namespace, as opposed to the Unity engine namespace that we've been using all along. So, but in short, what the asset database is it is a set of methods that we can use to access information about assets inside of our project. So we're just going to leverage that functionality. And I don't know why I wanted to do that, but all right, we're going to use get asset path. So this is going to give us the path that Unity thinks based off of whatever we tell it. We need to give it an object. To get that object, we're going to use selection.activeObject. And then let's do a debug.log, and all right, fine. And I want that debug.log. All right. And then we'll log out the Unity path. So basically all we're doing is we're going to look and see what's selected. We're going to get its path, and then we're going to print it out. And technically, just to be safe, if string dot is null or empty Unity path, then we'll do a debug.log. Nothing is selected. And I don't want to do a log. Let's do a log warning. So, and if that's the case, we're going to return out. So what we're going to do is basically check our path. If it's empty or it's null, we're going to say nothing was selected, and we're going to kick out of the asset bundle. Nothing else needs to be done. If it's not, we're going to print off or print out whatever is selected. So let's go ahead and build this. Jump over to Unity, Control R just for fun. I'm going to select off of everything to make sure nothing's selected. go to build asset bundles, nothing is selected. If I select m_terrain, do the same thing. We get past this, so we know that's working. So do you want to include, I'll just hit yes. And we'll see that it's saying assets /data terrain common resources materials m_terrain.mat. This is the true file name, is displayed. Now notice it doesn't have my directory, it doesn't have any of the folders. It is starting at our project folder and going from the assets folder forward. It doesn't know anything before that. This is going to become important because we're going to be putting these new assets inside of that data folder that exists outside of this assets folder. So we're going to need the full drive path or the full system path to where those files are going to go. We're going to have to add or create new folders as necessary. So let's do that next. And jump back over in the code. So while we have a Unity path here, I'm going to duplicate this and then make a system path field. So this will be our system path. Now, let's do system path. Go down here. We'll say system path is equal to unity path dot replace, and what I'm looking for is that assets / because every Unity path is going to begin with assets / and I'm going to replace that with nothing. I'm going to completely remove it. Then I'm going to say system path is going to be equal to our application.data path plus a / plus system path. So and I'm going to come up here, get rid of this debug, and I'm going to put it down here. And change this. So now we're going to print out our system path instead. Hit Control R. I always want to hit that play. Don't worry, I will do it before the set of videos is done. Okay, so use recursion, yes, yes. All right, now, instead of seeing assets, it says projects, 3D Buzz, Terrain R&D, VTM, Terrain Export, assets, data, terrain. So basically this is my full path of the entire drive to get to this asset. Mm-hmm. So that gives us that bit of information, which is going to be useful because once we have that little piece of information, instead of printing it out, I can say get assets. Or I could if I had that method. So I need to create a method called getAssets. So there that is. Now, we're not going to put any functionality into it. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this throw exception. And I want to change this to be just path. So that'll clean that up. All right, now another part of functionality that we need to do inside of here. Let's do it this way first. I was trying to think which of the two I want to do. I'm going to do the easier of the two. The way this is going to work, it's broken up in a couple of different methods. Basically, you've already seen the getAssets method get skeleton in. No functionality yet, but the that method exists now. Now, getAssets is basically going to go and deal with recursion and figuring out each of these assets. And we'll have a video on just setting this one up. But once those assets have been found and put together into a list, we need to process that list. So what we need to do is check some conditions, and then based on those conditions, we want to process the bundle. So I'm going to say, for now, if true, we're going to process bundle. Now, process bundle, again, is going to be one of those methods that I'm going to just skeleton in. We're going to have a little stub for it. It's not going to do anything yet, but it will at some point. Process bundle job is to set up the initial information. Basically, where is that bundle going to go? What is the name of the bundle? And then it's going to call a build bundle method, which truly builds the bundle and puts it onto the hard drive. And we'll get to that as well in a later video. But the workflow is just basically, we're going to ask the questions. We're going to go get all the assets based off of our initial selected object. We're going to have to do some manipulation here as well. And then this get assets is going to build a list of all the assets that need to get put into the bundle. We're going to process that list, and then we're going to build the bundle. And there's a lot of steps, and there'll be a bit of back and forth for a while. But trust me, I'll get you there. Now, the last bit of this, we have to deal with what happens if instead of a folder, we have an individual asset selected, meaning we decided we just wanted to export this particular prefab, or we just want to export this material. How do we deal with that? Well, that's a whole different process as opposed to here, where we ask, hey, do you want to use recursion? Do you want to make a single file or multiple? And then get the system path, and then get a list of assets, and then process that list. When we only have a single asset selected, there's a lot less that we need to do. So we need to do a check, though, that says unity path dot substring unity path dot last index of, and we're going to look for the /, and then from here we need to check to see if this contains a period. And if it does, then I know that it's not a folder, or there is a way to break this. If for some reason somebody were to make a folder with a dot in it,
right,
then that could possibly break. I haven't put in error checking for every possible combination. So assuming that the last folder, you didn't select a folder that has a dot in it, then it would still work. If somebody did materials dot for some stupid reason, of course, then again, somebody would probably come up with a valid reason for doing it. But if they had a folder name that had a dot in it, this would break, and you would have to write your code separately to take that into consideration. So, but if the way these files are saved, every single file has a dot extension with it. Whether or not this ends up being a JPEG or a PNG, Unity materials have a .mat extension. Shaders have their extension. Scripts have .cs or JS, depending on what they have. So pretty much everything has its extension, and I'm banking on that fact for determining whether or not a folder is selected or a file is selected.
Now, have you considered using the file get attributes static method with .NET?
No.
Okay, just wondering, because that way that it doesn't break. You can basically find out if it's a directory or it's a file. Oh, that's okay. Keep going. Keep going. We'll talk about that off camera because if that's something you haven't played with before, no worries. Let's keep going with
No,
how
I
it is.
haven't.
And, okay, and then.
But I'm sure .NET would lead me in the direction fairly quickly.
Oh yeah. It's actually very easy.
So I'm guessing it would be just for fun. See how fast this goes. So it'd be if.
Well, first, just
File.
you can just go ahead and get your just
Caps
create
lock, right?
a file attributes variable.
Whoops. System IO dot attribute, or it'd probably be get attribute. Yeah, look at that, get attribute system file path. So then I could do unity path dot. Nope. So that part doesn't work. Get file attributes. All right, let's do this. Hold on. Compare to, so get type. Nope. I was hoping. You got me on this part.
Yeah, I'll show you how to use that. Let's go and continue with how you've got it at the moment. Then we can just come back in, and on the next one, if you want to adjust it, then we can.
Okay, fine, be that way.
Well, remember, like we've talked about a million times, I try to stay quiet during these videos and not jump in and add things that you may not have played with before or change around. So let's just continue with going how it's been going, and yeah.
Okay, well, we still need to get an asset. Man, threw me off. Now I'm thinking about how I can pull that off.
See, that's exactly what I didn't want to happen. I didn't know that you weren't familiar with using the attributes like that. It's okay. Let's keep cruising. It's all good.
No, I'm thinking. Nah.
All right.
Stop. No. Okay, no, I got it.
You're going to have to use a binary operator basically along with it to get out exactly what you're doing. So if you said file attributes and then had some variable name and then got your file.get attributes, then you could turn around and basically use that variable and end it with file attributes.directory and see if the result of that is equal to file attributes.directory. And then that means it's a directory. Otherwise, it must be a file.
Couldn't you just also check to see if it's a file or check if it's a folder? Or
well, that attribute's going to tell you if it's a file or a folder.
Okay. I was just saying if file exists type thing. Because if it exists, then it must be a file. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's fine. Keep going.
Yeah, I am.
I just threw that out there because I knew you were now crunching in your head. All right, how would I do it that way? And blah blah blah.
Yeah, exactly. I am. I've spun off a worker thread.
I just gave you the answer real quick. All right, so keep going.
I've already spun off a worker thread. So all I did was I stubbed in another method called getAsset that also takes a path or a string called path. So again, no functionality, but we're going to need it. So basically, this is handling the case of I only have a single asset. I just need to get that one asset taken care of. So then from here, I need to make a bundle name. The bundle name is going to be unity path dot substring. And I'm going to go from the start to unity path dot last index of, and I need the period from that. So that will get us to here. I'm going to do dot and wrap. Let's see, how do I want to do this? Do I want it there? No, let's go here. Dot substring, and we'll get our unity path dot last index of, and then now we're going to be looking for the last slash, and then adding one to that. Thank you, ReSharper. Don't know what I'd do without you. So basically what we're doing is we're stripping off the extension. We're looking for the last slash, and then we're using the name of the file to be the name of the bundle in this case.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're just selecting that one particular asset, I want the asset bundle to be named after it. Simple enough. Need to make a bundle path. This is going to be where that path, where the bundle is going to get saved. So that will be our Unity path.substring 0, Unity path dot last index of. We're going to get that last slash from there. And we're also going, once we've got, so basically we're stripping off the name of the file on the end. Then we're going to strip off the assets / from earlier. So we'll say replace assets / with nothing. So that'll strip that off. And then we need to do a check that says check if safe to create. And then we need to pass in our bundle path plus a / plus our bundle name. And we have to append a .unity3d to the end of this. This indicates that it is an asset bundle. So if it is safe to create, and so let me go ahead and create a method for that. So, and we're going to pass in a path. And for now, I'm just going to return true. So if we are safe to check, we're going to build our bundle. And build bundle, I want to take in a bundle path, followed by a bundle name. And once again, this doesn't exist, so we need to build it or create one. And get rid of the exceptions. So pretty much all stubbed in. But once we've built it, and if we've gone through this route, we've created a single asset bundle. I do not need to do anything else, so I'm going to return. So this will kick us out, and it'll make sure that we don't execute any of this code. Of course, nothing else works, but I could go into build bundle real quick and say debug.log, and then we'll say, let's do bundle path plus / plus bundle name. So we can see what happens. Jump back over in the Unity. So with my train selected, build asset bundle, and I get data, train, common resources, materials, mtrain. So it's missing the, oh, that's the check if safe. I forgot to add that part. Okay, it is doing exactly what I'm telling it to, but that's not what I meant to display, because right now, let's go ahead and take this part and copy it out of here, and I'm going to append it up here. So this will put the Unity on as part of the bundle name. Let me make sure no, I don't want to do that. I know why I don't want to do that. Because I'm going to append that inside of build bundle. There's a reason for the madness. See, I told you I was going to do it.
You did.
There it was. So, and that means it did not accept changes. There it goes. So now I'll just clear it and then run it one last time. So now we've got the .unity 3D extension on it. So
Gotcha.
we end up in data train. Now this one works slightly different because if I select just this, it's going to build the asset bundle in this location. It's not keeping the system path part separate, where it would build it into the data folder. So we haven't implemented any of that code yet. So everything will get put there, but it's not done at this point in time. Because right now, if I were to type this in and tell it to save, it would assume that I meant this data folder inside of assets, not the data folder that is on the same level of assets, which is current versions, train 10, train exporter, this data folder. So you got to remember this data folder and the other data folder, while they're mirror structures of each other, they don't necessarily contain the same information. This data folder is going to be for all of our asset bundles when they're done. The other one is for the prefabs and the source assets that we're going to be using to build those asset bundles.
Okay.
So let me do one last check to make sure I've got all the functionality that I wanted to put in here before we move on. Though it's
And I'll let you ponder something with your if file exists or directory exists. What happens if you, because we're now having to account for somebody doing something that's less than ideal with their assets or their data structure. So what happens if somebody has a folder name and an asset name that's absolutely identical?
Well, if we were just checking for that name, that was fine, but we're checking by a path. When you set this in, you're sending in an entire path. So it would only happen if they had a folder and file name that was exactly the same in the exact same folder.
Right,
And that's not possible, I don't think. You can't go in and let's say data folder. I'm testing here, so might be wrong. Test folder and new text document.
Tell it yes, because
see, you can't have a folder and a file in the same folder with the same name.
Okay.
So it would work. You could have, because we're using full paths to these things, you couldn't get yourself in a condition where you had the same.
Yeah, I've seen it happen before, so I don't know if it was table corruption or what. I'll do my own little research into that and let you know what I find. There's a reason that they give you file attributes for finding out that kind of stuff. But go ahead and continue.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I've not written a whole lot of applications for doing folder stuff.
That's good. That's good.
So, I pretty much gotten that out of my head. Now I'm thinking about it again.
Well, we're about to end this video, so we can talk about it.
Yeah. Let's see. The only thing left that's really to do is replace this true, but I'm not going to do that until I've got the other code in place to explain what we're changing it to and why we're changing it.
Right.
So, but we will get to that. So, we've got our two paths of execution. We've got our single asset selected path, and then we've got our folder path. So if we selected a folder, we go this way. If we selected a file, we go this way. How this ends up looking is still up to debate, and we'll probably change at the beginning of the next video if I know Jason.
Oh, if nothing else, I'll just share with you how to go about using that. So, all right, well, that's going to wrap up this video here. Thanks a lot, everyone, and we will see you in the next video.